today's episode is all about critical path in Microsoft Project. I'm going to walk you through what it means and how to get the most out of your critical path schedules. First, let's go over just a couple definitions. So for Microsoft Project, critical path is the longest sequence of tasks in a project that must be completed on time for the entire project to finish on schedule. Some key points with that, the way that they're calculating this is from Slack, which you can also call it float, but we're going to call it Slack because Microsoft Project uses that term in calculating it. And it'll be clear in a moment. So to define Slack, right, I'm not going to get into the project management side of things. Float, we're just going to strictly do just kind of a basic level here. So slack is the amount of time that can be delayed. A task can be delayed without affecting the total project. And there's two different forms of slack. So we've got total slack and free slack, and we're just gonna get into this quickly here. I just want to show you that the slack is taking the calculations. It gives a value for slack, and that is in turn coming up with critical path. So let's look at that first. So let's add a column, and keep in mind it's very specific, these columns you add. So if you don't know exactly what it's labeled as, it might be hard to find. So I know we mentioned before Slack can be used as float, but if you search for float, you're not going to find it. And then also if you search for Slack, you're not going to find that either, because it's titled total Slack, and then the other one here there's another one called free Slack. Total slack is the amount of time that a task can slip before delaying the project end date. And then free slack is the time a task can slip before delaying the next dependent task. And I'm showing you that because there's two different ones, and critical path is based off total slack. So there could be a situation where you have a different value for free slack than total slack. So critical path is based off total slack. So glad we got that out of the way. Just know that critical path is based off of slack. So let's go into how critical path is represented here. All right. So let's pull this over here. Actually, we really don't care too much about free slack for this example. Let's just pull this over just a little bit so we can have some room here to show our Gantt chart. All right, so right here in red, critical path has been highlighted. So first, what I always like to do, you can do it first or you can do it later on. It's really personal preference, but we need to figure out what Microsoft Project is deeming critical path. So in order to do that, we need to know how much total slack it's flagging as critical. So if you go into File here, on the bottom there's Options. And then from there, if you get to Advanced and go all the way down to the bottom. So this is where that slack that we talked about comes into play. Tasks are critical if slack is less than or equal to 0 days. So we can up that. So basically what I do for this is whenever I create a project, I'm done making the schedule, I look at what it's deeming critical path. I go in here and adjust it, and I work with the client or the stakeholders of the schedule, and what do you want to see critical? Where there's only 1 day, 0 days the schedule can be late before the everything's late, or 1 or 2. Sometimes I go up to 5. It really depends how aggressive the schedule is. But what that's going to show you is that there's a lot more tasks that are deemed critical if we do that. So this example, let's go down to 3, and you can see how things adjust. So hit OK. All right, so on the Gantt chart view here, you can see that critical path is in red. Maybe that's not so stands out as much, but if you filter your total slack and you find 0 days, and we look at the Gantt chart here, you can see all these tasks are red because we've said that that's a parameter of critical path. We also said, I think we said up to 3 days. So you're going to see all these tasks in 3 days are red as in critical. And then let's say if we did 5 days, look, see there's nothing red. Okay, so let's clear this. I want to show you a couple things. We're just going to view, filter, clear filter, just to kind of reset. By default, this is red for a certain reason. So, and the reason being that's just how it is laid out as a default. So if you go to bar styles, you can see that critical path appears red right here. And the kind of shading that's associated with it. So you can customize and change that. To me, it makes sense for critical path to be red because it stands out, but you can change the color to maybe a different shade of red, or anything you want. So I'll just show you what that looks like, and you can also change the pattern of it, how the opacity almost of this. If you want to, checker shaped, you can change the shape of it to skinny on top, all sorts of things. So we're just going to leave it as that, and then you can add text too, just like when we reviewed bar styles. You can really customize this so you can indicate your critical path. So let's just move on and hit OK, and you see how it changed our critical path color. So that's one way. If you double click again, you can see show hide bar styles. This means that it'll show tasks that are critical. If you unselect it, you're going to lose that. I don't know a case that would be a thing that you'd want to do, but I keep it checked. Okay, so we have that. We know how to change the level of days that a task is deemed critical. Now let's look at views. So if you want to show just your critical path, so if you have a client that says, okay, what's our critical path? Just highlight me that. So go to view and then filter, and there's a couple different ways. We can do critical here, just from your built-in view, right? So this is showing all the tasks that are critical on our project. No other tasks are in here. There's several that are critical because of this project. We probably need to lower slack, but that's one way. And then if you go to, actually, let's look at that. So look at all these tasks that it's deeming critical. Several tasks. And if we go in here, go back to File, Options, and under Advanced, let's change tasks are critical. Let's go to 0. Hit OK. So now look here. See how some of the tasks that were filtered critical have turned blue? So they're no longer critical. So at this point, you'll need to refresh this critical filter. So go to Filters, I would clear the filters just to be safe, and then I would do critical again. And now you see our list is a bit smaller. This schedule just has a lot of critical items. And then you can also, so let's go back and clear the filter. Let's say you didn't want to only show critical tasks. You want to just highlight them. You can go to your highlight here under view, highlight, and then you can select critical, and now it highlights everything that's critical, which is another way to represent that. So this project has a lot of critical tasks. You will see once you start to progress the project that the bar style changes as well. Like this task, if we make it 100% complete, and we're not going through the logic at this point, I'm just showing you what the bar changes. You can see this task is no longer critical because it's complete, it's done, it's not affecting critical path. So, and that is it. I really think this is just a straightforward example of critical path for you. There you go. That's everything you need to know about critical path and Microsoft projects. Like and follow for more content like this.